Hi, I'm Kate Allatt, founder of Fighting Strokes, and I thought you might be interested to know about the work that Fighting Strokes does on behalf of stroke survivors worldwide actually. Really proud to do so after my injury some time ago. We're a registered charity and we reach out globally to help inspire people using social media like Twitter and Facebook, Instagram, even Vine, to see whether we can help empower people, individuals, to improve after their stroke. So we also do face-to-face patient visits, but our key unique selling point, if you like, is that we try and engage with families and patients soon after stroke. That's where we can make the most difference to help practically advise patients and families who are going through a complete state of flux and fear and worry and anxiety how to go forward. You know, it's a long haul after a stroke, but there is an awful lot of progress that can be made and continues to be made long term. So why? You know, in 2010, February, I had a brainstem stroke myself at the age of 39. And sadly, when I came out of my coma, I had locked-in syndrome. Now, whilst we help all stroke survivors for any type of stroke, locked-in syndrome is a particular interest area for us because it's where you can think and feel normally, but you can't move a single muscle. In fact, it took about 2 weeks for me to even learn how to blink again. Some patients blink, some patients roll their eyes for yes and no in terms of their communication. Now, we are a very practical organisation. We do visits. We encourage patients to set goals that could be broken down to bite-sized goals. So for me, it was to run again. I was an obsessive fell runner before and I really wanted to run again. Very ambitious, but that's, I guess, what I'm like. But you know, every individual has their own goals, and it's really important that we try and bring those goals out from the patients, from the family, from the friends, because by hooking into what drives a patient with good therapy, great family, great support and great motivation from the individual, we believe we can help that patient rewire their brain and do some of the tasks they used to do before their stroke, whether it was walking their dog or crocheting or knitting or whatever their goal is. We just try and help practically and advise. And a lot of what we say is down to self-management. You know, there's an awful lot we can do ourselves. I used to call it willing in hospital. And it's repetition, it's frequency and it's intensity of any action, whether it's to move your finger a bit more, to move your wrist if you've suffered from contractures following a stroke. There's so much we can do on our own, and we should take control and responsibility for that, we believe. But we also believe something really free that everyone can have potentially, and that is to tap into a bit of self-belief. And if we do a little bit of sprinkling self-belief for patients, then for them to try and work hard to achieve their goals, then we think that makes a huge difference to people's recovery. Really believe you can do it. I always believed I could do it, and all I'm trying to do now is inspire other people to help them. So what we do is advocacy online, digitally. I do patient and family visits, but interestingly now, 3.5 years on, I influence with the charity work that we do, with all the new trustees. We've got some great new trustees who are experts actually in research and clinical doctor specialists in stroke. But we've recently been fantastically awarded the Steering Group committee membership on the UK Stroke Forum, which determines the stroke policy for the UK. A very important organisation to be involved with, which we're proud to say we're there influencing as often as we can. We've mainly, in the last year, we've had some huge news actually. I've always believed that electric stimulation used on upper limbs early after stroke can help reduce pain, improve contractures or spasticity, and I've always believed helps rewire the brain. And do you know what? From one cheeky tweet to Joanna Fletcher-Smith, who's an OT researcher at Nottingham University, we've now developed an application for a grant, and the RFPB have awarded £250,000 to run a feasibility study to test whether this theory is true. Because a lot of people on my social media believed me and think like I did. It wasn't just my instinct, so I'm so proud to say that we're going to be involved in that feasibility research. In terms of other areas that we're interested in, mental health is a huge. The physical disabilities after stroke are just one side of the story. The mental issues, the anxiety, the depression, the isolation, withdrawal, self-esteem, they're huge. I suffered with them myself personally. I think returning to work after stroke, if you're of working age like I am, is a huge issue for stroke survivors. A lot of them either remain on benefits but really want to go to work or have to go to work to fund children and mortgages, car loans. And we think that society should embrace and be more inclusive of people after stroke, employing people after stroke and being more flexible. So that's an area that we're really interested in. Another area is continence, urinary incontinence, particularly in stroke, because I think it's an area that we don't really talk about very much. It's a bit of a taboo subject. But one other theme I'm personally very interested in is introducing a nominated patient advocate in ICU, where a nurse in a uniform is trained, extra trained, in the eventuality someone like I come into ICU, to identify a system of communication if the patient's cognitive, and to try and explain to them some of the and alleviate some of the fears and anxieties, like the likeliness of very severe hallucinations, the loneliness, the depression, the fear that you're going to die. Having someone there to talk to a patient like me is crucial, and it shouldn't be a member of the cloth, because I think you'd think you're getting your last rites in that respect. So, what do? We urge clinicians, doctors, patients never to believe that the word plateau. You never ever stop recovering after a stroke. So plateau is a nonsense from our point of view. And we're absolutely very keen on the not lowering expectations. So often in hospital in the acute phase we hear of doctors who are there saving lives and doing a fantastic job, but actually lowering the expectations of both the family, friends and patient, to sometimes some dire consequences. No one knows what a patient will do in 6 months' time after a brainstem stroke or any type of stroke. Not me, not doctors. But what we do know is, with patients on board, with family on board, supportive, friends, with great rehab, early rehab, that patient has the best chance to make the most progress. So we also need to tap into the patient's goals to be able to do that. So that leads me on to a very nice discussion that actually I believe that our strapline for our charity is no promises, just possibilities. It's that for a reason. We don't disseminate false hope. We don't tell people they can't do this. We say to them, look, there's Kate at one end, there's Tony Nicholson sadly at the other end, and there's so many individual cases in between that you can progress to. No one knows. So there are possibilities. There are no promises, but there are possibilities. And then finally, I want to share with you a story of a girl who has blown my mind, quite frankly. Her name is Christine Waddell. She's a year younger than me. She's locked in. She was locked in when I first introduced her in Skype 2.5 years ago, in a wheelchair and a headrest. Since then, neural pathways have fantastically helped her out with some rehabilitation freely, because they wanted to see how far their treatments could push someone like Christine, who's done nothing for 15 years at that point. Within 3 months of coming in once a week, she'd lost the headrest. That kick-started all these muscles down here. Within another 3 months, she sat on a plinth, being able to move side to side, forward and back. She works so hard, does Christine. It's all come from her. Within another year, she incredibly, I don't know if you can believe this, she had been nil by mouth for 16.5 years. She ate her first meal. Can you believe the quality of life changed for her, and the fact her life has a structure now? She has therapy, not once a week anymore, 3 times a week. And recently she's now moved on to 3 meals a day and 2 coffees a day. And she's in a standing frame. And she has the most unbelievable self-belief, amazing work rate, and she has incredible support from the team that are supporting her and working with her. So all we do, and there's many other people like Christine involved with the stroke charity, not Fighting Strokes charity, who aren't just locked in survivors, they are other stroke survivors, and we help each other out on our Facebook site and Twitter especially. So feel free to come and join us, and thanks for listening.